Hello, welcome to AtlasMD. My name is Kirk Umber, and in this video we're going to take a in-depth look at all the billing features included with the AtlasMD EMR. All right, let's first take a look at setting up the billing for a patient. So once we're in the patient's chart, we can go to their billing page by clicking on this $ here. And once we're in their billing page, we'll have access to all the various features and things to manage their billing for the practice. So right up here at the top, we'll see we've got the subscription section. And when they're signing up online, you can set up different prices and things. So that way a subscription gets automatically applied. Or you can edit the subscription to change the price. Uncheck is based on age. Then you can free text any amount that you want. Say it's $25. Save that. And then their subscription will stay there at $25. Or let's say we delete that and we want to add in a new subscription. Lots of different options when adding in new subscriptions. You can do is based on age. So this will go back to the age-based pricing tiers that you set up. Or if you uncheck that, then that will allow you to free text any amount like we did before. And then you can also change the frequency. So monthly, yearly, quarterly, or biannually. Most commonly is monthly or yearly from my experience. And then we can choose to start this subscription this month, or go ahead and select a patient. Or if we want, we can actually select to have the subscription start at a future date. So for new patients, you can select that to start at a later time. Maybe you're pre-enrolling patients and your clinic doesn't open for a few months, then you can set up their subscription, but then change their subscription start date to move forward and start at a later date. Okay, now let's go up here and look at the options here under this gear icon. So request credit card information. What that is that will send the patient a link where they can update their credit card on file, and then that credit card will show up here right in their billing page. So they can do it all from the link that they receive in their email, enter that information, and they'll be all set. Add a credit. So if you're giving a promotion or a discount or something like that because maybe you were had a patient that was referred by an existing patient and so you want to add a credit, you can do those things, and so that way it will use up the credit before the patient shows that they have a balance that they owe. Auto charge settings. So patients can sign up for auto charge during the online enrollment, or you can set up their auto charge from here. The auto charge date options are the 1st, the 5th, 10th, 15th, 20th, or 25th. And most common is probably the 1st or 15th. So you can go ahead and set that here. And then the other part that's important to note when setting up auto charge is not just the date that you select, but also a card or bank account on file. So you can have multiple bank accounts or multiple credit cards on file, but you'll just want to select one that says yes for auto charge. When a real credit card is in here, you'll see the option for auto charge eligible, yes or no. And so you would toggle that yes, and then on the 1st of every month, it will auto charge that credit card on file. And then add to collections. What that will do is maybe there's a patient that is overdue by several months and you want to add them to collections. It's an internal collection, so it's not something that gets sent out to an actual collections company. It's more of your internal way of temporarily archiving that patient until their account is paid up. So that way you can manage patients that are extremely overdue, and if they try and come in for a visit or for medications or labs, you can let them know that their account needs to be paid up in full before proceeding because you've added them to a collections category. All right, and then sell inventory item. You can use this to search items in your inventory. This would be good for things that aren't necessarily medications or supplements, but maybe you have like blood pressure cuffs and things like that. So then you can put that in here, add charge to the current invoice, and add payment. And then that will knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. So that will add the charge that the patient owes, but then also you can run their card on the spot for that amount. And you click add charge, and then it processes the patient's credit card and then deposits those funds into your bank account on file. You can also do miscellaneous charges. These would be great to capture anything else in the practice that is maybe out of the ordinary. So these could be lots of different things, but an example would be like a prorated membership. So on the first month that a patient joins, you'd want to add a prorated charge for the remaining time left in that current month. And you could do this as a miscellaneous charge. So say this was $25 for prorated membership. And then what we would do is add charge to current invoice and then add payment. Again, two birds with one stone. You're adding the fee for what they owe, and then you're adding the payment for that charge. And then click add charge and it will process that. Now let's say that the patient has several charges on their account. Maybe they have several medications and some lab work and other things, that multiple charges that need paid for that are going to be outside of their auto charge date. Then you can run a payment on the spot. So to do that, we would go add payment, and then we can do pay for specific items, and we can pick multiple things that we want to include on this payment. So maybe they're saying, well, I'd like to pay for these 3 things or 2 things today, and then my auto charge will collect the rest. So then you can do on the fly payments for various charges, or collect payment at the time of service. Maybe there's an imaging order that you're sending out that requests you want to collect payment on up front because it's maybe a larger ticketed item. You can collect that at the time of service at any point in the month. You don't have to wait for an auto charge date to run payments for patients. You can do that at any time. All right, and then we would click add payment, and then again it would process that payment and deposit that in your bank account. Let's cover the fees. So for credit card fees, it's 2.1% for all credit cards and 30 cents for the online transaction. So let's run an example of $100. Say you processed a patient's credit card for $100, then there's 2.1% or $2.10 for the processing fee, and then there's 30 cents for the online transaction. So that's $2.40 out of the 100. So then $97.60 gets automatically deposited to your bank account on file. And on a given day, it will lump all of your patient transactions together and then make one deposit into your bank account. So you won't have the granular deposits of each individual patient in your bank account. It will be one payment for the whole day. So if all your payments total $1,000, then you'll have $1,000 payment or deposit, in your bank account on file. Okay. Now bank account or ACH payments, those are 25 cents per transaction, and that's the only fee. The only downside is that it takes a little bit longer to process. The ACH payments take about 7 business days, whereas credit card payments only take about 2. So from my experience, the patients prefer credit cards more so than doing bank drafts or ACH payments. So, but if a patient does want to pay by bank account, you can set that up here by entering their name, routing number, and account number. And the way that'll work is it will make 2 small deposits into the patient's bank account, and they will receive an email where they can enter those amounts to verify that they own the account, or they can tell you what the amounts are, and then you can put that in their billing page and verify the account from there. So once the account's verified, then you'll be able to set it up on auto charge and make either one-time or auto charge transactions from that bank account on file. All right. Now, next section down here is going to be the invoices section. This will have invoices listed out by the month if the patient has an outstanding balance that month. If they are on a yearly or annual subscription and they went a month where they didn't have any incidental charges or anything, then they won't have an invoice for that month. But if you'll always be able to look at past months, or you can look at yearly invoices, which will be a one long invoice for all the months combined. And we can click into that here. And if we want to look at a preview of their next month invoice, then we would click on the pending invoice. So that'll be their upcoming invoice. And what that'll include is their membership fee and any incidentals from the previous period. So the January invoice will include their January subscription plus any meds or labs or imaging or anything extra that they had during the month of December. And a good way to think about it is like your cable bill. Let's say if you order a movie on cable, they will add that to your next invoice. So that way it reflects the past period activity. So your next bill for your cable would be your upcoming month and then any movies or anything that were rented in the previous period. So same concept here with the invoice for patients on a monthly subscription. And then if we scroll down further, the next section is the billing history. So this is where we'll be able to identify the individual charges and payments for that patient. And if they're on a family account, then there'll be more than one patient in this billing page. So maybe you've got mom, dad, and 2 kids, and then the entire family will have one joint billing page. And that way, the head of household will receive the invoices and manage that. And then you're not sending invoices to a 9-year-old or something like that. Okay, so on this, the charges will show up in red, and then the payments will show up in black. So if we'll do an example here. Let's say we're going to do a miscellaneous charge for sports physical. Then we'll do add charge to current invoice, and then add payment for this charge. And then we'll just change the payment method from online credit card to cash just for this one. So you can do cash or check options as well. There's no fee for those because there's not any electronic processing involved. You would just collect that and then deposit it in your bank like normal. Okay, and then we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4 for this check. All right, so if we'll scroll down to the billing history, we'll be able to view this activity. So we've got the sports physical charge in red. The red does not mean that there has been payment for it. That is just showing that the charge has been incurred. And then the payment above that will be in black. So that way these two will offset each other and you'll be able to tell. Another way to think of this is like when you go to the grocery store, everything gets scanned through first. So that would be these items in red, and then you pay at the end. So then that's your payment in black, and keeps it real easy to tell what's been paid for and what hasn't. And but the math will always be done for you as far as what's outstanding or still left to be paid by the patient and things like that. So you won't ever have to do these by hand. You can always let the software handle the outstanding balance for you. And then these other sections down here, communication log. So just keeping track of everything that you sent to the patient, whether it's a request for credit card info, that you emailed them an invoice, or you can also add notes and things down here. So maybe that the patient called and you guys came up with an agreement for a particular payment plan or something like that. You can add those notes in here because they're billing related. So this would be the section to include that. And then also their insurance information. They actually have a way to input this when they're signing up online. So this information will show up down here. And if you want to ever access that in another part of their record, you can use the macro #INS. And when you type that in and hit enter, it will pull the insurance information for that patient. Okay. All right. Now let's go up and let's look at companies. So with companies, you can set up a company profile, and that way, if a company says that they would like to pay for their employees to utilize the practice, you can set it up to where the company is going to pay for a certain amount, and then the patient is responsible for everything else. So what's probably most common I've seen is 100% of the subscription, and then the patient is responsible for everything else. So in these categories, you would just leave them blank or leave them at 0. And then the way it'll work is you will link employees to the company, and it's easy to do from their profile settings. And then 100% of their subscription fee for that month will go on the company invoice. Down here, it's going to have a very similar layout to patient billing pages. And then all the employees' subscriptions will go on the company invoice, and then the patient is responsible for everything else like medications and labs. And then you put them both on auto charge, and you're done. Easy peasy. So similar layout and functions. You can do miscellaneous charges. You can do one-time payments and things like that. Same thing up here for requesting credit card info, auto charge settings, etc. All right, let's look at reports. And all right, so this reporting section, this will have lots and lots of different ways to view and manage your billing reports for the clinic. So we'll go through each one here. So outstanding balance, that is like the current balance that's left to come in for that month. And so this will let you know it will take out anything that's already been received as far as payments, and then gives you a glimpse of anything, the current balance, the total balance from all the patients that's left to come in. Then overdue balance, that would be anything that is past 30 days. So that's something that was supposed to be paid last month that now isn't paid. Then that will add up on your overdue balance section. And there's a way to view the individual outstanding patients or the overdue balance patients. So you can view who's overdue by a certain number of days, and some of these have some long ones on there, but it's just from the dummy account. But my recommendation would be to spend your time in the overdue balances section and keep an eye on anybody that's getting another 30 days overdue. Then that means that they're close to 2 months unpaid. Then you can reach out to the patient and let them know that their account is overdue, and maybe you need a new payment method on file if their card isn't working or something like that. Even so, if a patient does have a failed payment, then they do receive a welcome email, or I'm sorry, not a welcome email, but a failed payment confirmation email. And there'll be a link in there where they can pay their invoice online, and then right from the email, and then it will update in their chart. Okay, let's go back to reports. Payments, this is going to be what percentage of your payments are coming in from what method. For the most part, credit cards are going to be a pretty high percentage of that, but it'll let you know what percentage are in these other categories. And then charges by categories, it's going to be what percentage of all your payments are coming in from what area. What total percentage of your revenue is coming from subscriptions, medications, labs, etc. And then charges per doctor. Maybe you've got several physicians in the practice, then let you know what percentage of those charges are coming in by the doctor, or you can do it by location. And then inventory sales and dispense profit. Keep track of all the sales that you've had minus what your expenses were when putting those in. Active patient lists, so you can view patient growth over time. And then up here under this gear icon, there's going to be a lot more even further advanced billing reports for various different categories. You can look at just labs. You can look at all charges individually per doctor. Posting report, that's going to be if you need to share your transaction details with a third party like an accountant. Then what that'll do is remove the patient's name and insert their medical record number. So that way you can safely share it with a third party because it's unidentifiable. It's just a record number and the transaction that occurred. And so then you can share that with a third party if they'd like to reconcile that from your bank deposits. Okay. And then disputes. So this is going to be anytime that a patient has disputes a charge for the practice. So if they say that they don't recognize a charge, or they feel that they shouldn't pay a particular charge or something like that, patients can dispute that with their credit card company, and then that will appear in this section here where you can manage it. And by manage, I mean where you can support, you can add evidence to the dispute to prove that you are in fact owed that. A lot of times patients do it by accident. They just are quickly looking through their statement, don't recognize a charge, call their company, their credit card company, and say that they don't recognize it, and almost immediately the credit card company will return the funds back to the patient. If it's done by accident, you can just recharge the patient's card and then move on and disregard this dispute. If a patient is disputing it and you do feel that you are owed that, you can respond to the dispute and submit evidence like your patient agreement, the maybe payment history, past invoices, things like that to support your case that the patient did in fact know what they were paying for and that you are owed that money. And then the banks will review that. Typically, it's a pretty long process for them to review that, 60 to 75 days sometimes. And if you are owed that money and the dispute is won in your favor, then you will receive those funds back in your account. Okay, service fees. This is going to be for if you want to add a fee schedule or a list of things that you sell in the practice that are outside of the membership, but not necessarily medications or labs. These could be like other physical goods or other services. You can see some examples in here like a DEXA scan, DEXA review, and things like that. So you can add in all those things here, but then once you're in the patient's chart, that's where you can actually select from that menu. So say we wanted to select a couple of things from our service fees. What we would do is under the miscellaneous charge, click the drop down, and then we'll be able to select these items here. So we can do multiple things. It doesn't just have to be one item. So say we were doing DEXA scan, review, and home visit, then we can process their card at the time of service for multiple things at the same time. And then apply charge current invoice, add payment for this charge, cash, check, credit card, or other, and we'll do cash. Send payment confirmation email. You can if you'd like. Most people will do that. Or print receipt if they're right there on the spot. And then that'll appear, that activity will appear down here in their billing history. And then also their invoices are automatically reflective of anything that you've done. So you won't have to update invoices or anything like that because the billing history or the charges, subscriptions, everything automatically builds the invoice for you. Okay. Now let's say we were going to do a refund. So say that there was something in here that was a refund that we don't need. Say we don't need this DEXA review. So say we're going to do a refund. What we do is hover over the payment and click refund payment. We can refund the full amount or we can do a partial refund. Let's say in this case that we were going to refund them $20 and we could say do not need DEXA review and then refund. And this is the same process for credit cards, for bank accounts, anything. So now we'll see here the refund line has been added. Let me do see all. And now we've successfully refunded the patient, but it's still going to assume that this charge the patient still needs. But in this case, they don't. So what we would do is simply delete that charge. So then that way it doesn't look like the patient still owes $20 because we've partially refunded it. If they do, maybe they paid with one card, but then asked if the payment could be put on a different card, then you can do a full refund on the first payment and then just reprocess the card or the second card for that amount, and then you won't have to delete any charges or anything like that. So that's the main thing to remember on that. Lastly, let's go to settings, and there's going to be another section here for extra charges. And so these are going to be the internal and external phlebotomy charge. That's going to be for any time if you're drawing blood in-house or sending it out to the pharmacy, or I'm sorry, to the Quest location, then you can set that up here. And shipping charge, that would be if you ever order a shipping label for a patient, like say you're going to mail them medications, then you can set up an additional markup to go onto the patient's invoice. This default's 50 cents. And then enrollment fee, if you want to add an enrollment fee, you can set that up here. So it's automatically added to any new patient that signs up online. And then inventory handling charge. This is like an alternative option for marking up meds. So there's an option to do meds that are marked up by a percentage, or what some will do is not do any markup on percentage or on the medications by percentage and just do those at cost, and then add an inventory handling charge instead. So for example, if you have a prescription for 3 medications, let's say, then all those are going to be at cost, but each prescription has a $5 handling fee or $1, whatever you want to charge. And then that way, you're covering the lid, the bottle, and the label. So it's just another way to look at it. But either way, all these items or all those extra charges get automatically added to the patient's invoice when they're ordered and things like that. So, all right, hope that helps. Please email support@atlas.md if you would like to have a more in-depth or live demo and to go through some of these billing features with one of our staff, and we'd be happy to set that up. Thanks for watching. Hope it helps, and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.